This video will be sort of a step-by-step of the engine mounts as I build them, so you'll be able to see the incremental progress here. I showed you this already probably, but here's this B-series mount on the driver's side. Here's the beginnings of the mount on the passenger side. As you can see, it picks up the post mount here, the stock mount, or bracket at least, and uses this motor mount bushing that I bought off eBay. And then I've got these two blue 1/4 inch steel pieces that happen to be the right size that I actually got in scrap from a business nearby. I just hacked that off of there, and they're pretty much perfect for what I'm doing. So I had to drill the holes and cut those off, all that kind of fun stuff. So I've got the interface to the engine, the bushing, the vertical pieces here. I'm sort of tempted to just weld those directly to the frame rail there, but I feel like I shouldn't do that. So I'm still working to figure out how I'm going to do that. My original plan was, if you can see it, my original plan was to use this mount that I have bolted on right here to the stock mount and have it come over and pick these up. It's going to be a pretty big engine mount. I'm not sure that's the best way to do it, so I'm still trying to figure out how that's gonna work. So that's the progress on the driver's side. Passenger side I still need to work on. Let's see if I can show you. And on the back here I have stuff you can't see at all. There we go. I made a plate that bolts onto the back of the block here. A couple of these holes need to be elongated because they are not drilled in exactly the right spot. And then I've got my eBay mount on the back there. That's falling down. So I'll have to come up with something to bridge the gap between those two. So what I think I'm going to do is get the right side done, do the rear, and then do this side. And that'll locate the engine in the bay. So I've got it lined up the way I want it. Vertically it's in the right spot too, and side to side it's in the right spot to use the EP3 axle on the passenger side. So what I've been doing, if I can show you this, maybe I can. So when I want to trace a bolt pattern, the way that I've been doing it is I've been putting this piece of cardstock up to it, and then if your fingers are nice and dirty, you can rub your finger around it, and it makes an indentation around the hole and puts a little bit of dirt on the edge where the pressure is the highest. So I don't know if you can see this at all. There's a small indentation right there, and then I made a hole in the middle of it, and then I center punched those and drilled them out of this 1/4 inch plate that I've got on the back of the engine. Kind of tedious with a hand drill, but that's what I've got. Don't have a drill press yet, maybe one day. So that's how far I am so far. I've got maybe 2 hours into this passenger side mount. Once I get it all put together, I will clean it all up, paint it around the edges on this piece. I did the same thing for this piece of steel here to find where the bolt holes were. I used the cardstock and basically made some dirty circles on the cardstock with my finger and center punched it, and this one actually lined up perfect. It's when you've got 3 or 4 holes like this one in the back has, and you're trying to get those all in the exact right spot and you're not drilling the holes way oversized, it's kind of difficult to get them exactly right. So that is how far I am, and I'll have more to show you as we progress. As an update, I've made a cardboard template for the part that's going to go on the frame rail down there, if you can see it. I just took a piece of cardboard and taped them together. So what I'm going to do, now that I've done that, take this template here, and then I've got a rear seat brace from the Civic that I kind of traced out there. I want it to be a little bit bigger than my piece of cardboard, but that gives you a rough idea. I think this radius is similar to the frame rail, so I'm going to cut this out and see what I end up with. Alrighty, so here's what I came up with for the passenger side. I've got this larger piece that's sort of like a saddle that sits on the frame rail, and it's got one small bolt in there just to hold it in place. I think what I'm going to do is add a weld along here, and then if you can see that along here as well vertically, and that should hold it in place pretty well. And then it's bolted onto the 3 original bolt hole and transmission mount points for the original engine. So I think that'll be pretty good. I need to just verify everything's in the correct spot, and then I can move on to the rear mount and I'll show you that. Alright, here is the plate that goes on the back of the engine. It goes like this on there, like so, and then I'm going to build something to go between the eBay mount and this plate and weld it on there. Here's the progress I've made on the rear mount until I ran out of welding wire, so I need to pick some up tomorrow. I have my plate. You can see that? Maybe you can see it. Let's go right side up. You can see my plate. Yeah, that's a pretty good view of it. You can see my plate over here that's bolted onto the back of the block. And then I've got 2 more of these 1/4-inch brackets, these blue ones here, that I cut off a piece of scrap metal. A piece of 3/16 over here. And then that just goes pretty much straight across. So that's kind of nice. The other side is the same setup. I can show you from the other side even. Check that out, you can even kind of see it. Other side is the same kind of setup, except it needs a bend in it, so I can get those 2 bolts in on the back of the plate that goes on the block. So these 2 bolts down here, if I made it straight across, it would be right in the middle of those, and I need to be able to pick those up. After I get it all tacked together, I'll pull it off, and then I'm going to weld a 3/16 plate across the top of it, and that should make that piece pretty strong. Maybe I'll do the bottom too if I'm feeling adventurous. I don't think it's necessary. So that's the progress on that. Now I'm working on the driver's side engine mount. I've got a little bit done here. What I did is I took, from my previous video, I've got this 3/8-inch laser cut flange, and I had them cut it so that I had the big chunk in the middle as a piece of scrap. So it was just attached. You can see right here, it was attached still when I got it. I cut those out, and I put one on this front bolt here, and then the other one bolts up to the basically a stock B series engine mount. And my hole in the back here, if you can see it, is broken, so I can't use that one. Normally an engine mount for one of these, a trans mount for one of these would go from here and then pick up this bolt that I just showed you that's broken. But since I can't do that, I'm building a plate on the bottom. Now you can see it's bolted on now. You can see the fourth bolt right there. I'm going to pick up all 4 of these bolts along the bottom. In the Accord, there's an engine mount that runs along the bottom here, in addition to the one on the top. So I'm going to pick that up. This will be trimmed up a little bit better than it is and look nicer when I'm done. So I'll pick up the 4 bolts there, and then I'll have a piece that comes out, like a square tube that comes out towards me, and then it'll have a flat plate that goes up and picks up the that 3/8 plate that I just showed you. So we'll see how this works out. I'll give you an update when I get everything tacked into place. Alright, here's the progress so far. It's coming along pretty nicely. From the front, looks decent. The back is boxed in. Got a gusset welded on there. And in the back there's a gusset as well, you can see there. Now my concern with this is, let's see what the bottom looks like. All I have is this 3/16 piece going down to the bottom. And I think that could be better. So what I'm planning to do, bear with me here. You can see from the bottom my tab sticking out up there, and then this square piece that sticks out. What the concept is that this will go like that. I mean, it'll go closer to the transmission, of course. There you go, like so. And it'll land right on there. And you'll say, well, where'd you get a nice piece of tubing like that? Surely not an old pair of BMX handlebars. Oh, let's see how this turns out. And there we go. One handlebar welded on there. So there you go, that picks it up. I've got 4 bolts in the bottom, and that's what I came up with for a motor mount on the driver's side. I'll take a picture of all the mounts off and painted, and passenger side one I'll weld it in. And then that'll be the end of this video, I hope. Here are the final results of the engine mount build. I've got 3 mounts, and I kind of walked you through each one. We'll go in the same order that we just showed you them being built. Here's the passenger side mount. As you can see, it picks up, let's see if I can balance this, picks up the 3 bolts that were used for the original D-series transmission mount. And this plate is actually the original part of this car for the rear lower seat brace. The aftermarket B-series, D-series transmission mount that was originally welded on down here. These pieces of 1/4-inch laser cut steel that I found along the side of the road in a free pile. So that's the driver's side, and this just bolts up to the original mount on the engine. Here is the rear mount. You can see what we got going on here. The part that's bolted onto the subframe is not modified, and I built. I built this whole piece here. I thought that turned out pretty good. So this bolts onto the back of the block with 4, I think they're 12mm bolts. And then finally the big mount that I built for the driver's side. This one's a little more elaborate, mostly because there was a broken bolt on the transmission case, so I needed to come down and wrap around the bottom and pick up the bolts on the bottom of the transmission, in addition to the one that was left on the top. I think it turned out pretty good. You won't see most of it when the engine's in the car, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to show you sort of where we're at and what all the mounts look like by themselves without the engine in the car, because soon we will have an engine in the car. Oh, I also welded a bunch of boogers on here. This isn't finished yet, but this is the cutout in the K-frame, or the K-member, or subframe, whatever you call it. I guess you call it a subframe on this car. The differential sits back in this little pocket here, and I used most of the original pieces to put it back together. Turned out okay. I'm still going to grind it down so all the welds are pretty much flush, and then I'll paint the whole subframe black so it looks a lot nicer. And maybe I'll show you another video after everything's cleaned up and the engine's ready to go in for the last time. Well, the next time. I'm sure it'll be out again.